Hello, welcome to this DevTV Introduction to Revit Programming. My name is Augusto Gonçalves and I'm a developer consultant at Autodesk Developer Network. So here's a quick Meet the Presenter slide. Next time we see each other at a conference or meeting, come up and chat. I'm always glad to meet developers. There are four major versions of Revit: Architecture, Structure, MEP, and Revit, which contains all the first three. I'm assuming you know how to use Revit product and the main difference between those versions. Most of the API is shared across all versions, but there are some specific features available only if you are running the specific product. The API was written in .NET and you can use it from any .NET programming language. Here we are going to use C#. Finally, the SDK, Software Development Kit, contains very interesting information. If you don't have it yet, I strongly suggest that you download it from autodesk.com/developrevit. Once you download it, you should definitely take a look at the reference guide, which contains a list of all API classes available. Also, the samples folder, which contains several samples. There are some interesting samples like the Revit commands and file rating. So, for this class, I'm going to show you how to get started with the API. So let's make a quick classic reload word sample, and with that we're going to be able to configure the environment, create a project, and start up Revit in debug mode. So let's go for this demo. For this demo you need Visual Studio 2012 because it's the main version that Revit is using right now. So the other step is that you have to go to the blog and download the wizard used for this presentation. You can get it at the blog or at the additional material of this presentation. With this wizard, you can go to Project, New, Project, and under C# you're going to find Revit 2015 add-in, which is a template specific for Revit applications. So let's give this a name and a folder where you're going to save this application, and just click OK. Now we have a project for Revit 2015 and we have a few files created for this application. We can see that the project is already set up, and if we go to Properties, we'll see that the debug features are enabled for Revit 2015. Note, I'm using Revit, it's not Architecture, Structure or MEP, it's the Revit that contains all the other three. Finally, we can see the references for Revit application, which are Revit API and Revit API UI. So going to the Revit DevTV 2015 add-in, we can see that this command is prepared to load inside Revit. I have here two main sections, the command section and the applications section. Inside the command, we can see that the first version of the command was created. We can create a very simple command with task dialog.show devtv and a message. Now we have a command that is already running inside Revit. We can see all the attributes for that. One interesting point of this wizard is that when you build, we have a build events, and this wizard is prepared to copy the add-in file and the DLL file to the Revit specific folder, which is located under the application data /Revit/add-ins 2015. So let's go back to our code and hit start. Revit will launch and we can create a new file, for instance. And as this command was registered with that add-in file, we can see under the add-ins, the external tools, the Revit DevTV 2015. Once we click here, you can see the message that appears on the screen. So let's get back to the command attribute of this code. The command data allow access to all that data we may need. There are a few main properties with including application and document. The application allow access to all the application object of Revit, and the document allow access to all the objects hosted on this project. We can see that the template was set with those objects: UI application, UI document, application, and document. There are two other parameters of this external command: the message and the elements. Those two parameters are only used if the command fails, if we return fail at the end. In that case, Revit will show the message with the elements on the elements parameter selected on screen. So, assuming your command will succeed, the message and the elements parameter are not used. Inside the application, we can see the current selection. I'm going to show how to access the current selection of the command and show the element type and some information of that. So let's get rid of this and access the selection before the command begins. Selection cell equals UI doc selection. Now we can iterate through the selection with a for each from C#. This selection contains the element IDs. That the user have selected before this command begins. Note we have the ID, not the element. So element equals doc get element based on this ID. Now we can show the category and name with a task dialog from the .NET, the Revit .NET API. So element category dot name and the element name. So let's try run this code with start. And inside this code, let's just create a simple wall, select the wall and run the command. We can see that the category is walls and the name is generic 200 millimeters. If we, for instance, place a door and select both, we have walls and doors, and here's the name of the door. Also, to better inspect the database, we can use the Revit Lookup tool. This tool is available as part of the SDK and now is also available under GitHub or at the blog. You can search for that tool at the blog, and it's very interesting that allow us to inspect the database from the API perspective. So every information we can see using this tool can be accessed through the API. So let's see how that works. So select this door and look up current selection. We can see the category, we can see the name, and we can see all the properties of this wall. One very interesting point are the parameters. So you can see all the parameters here. For instance, note that the area is shown as 176 square meters, but the value actually is 1894, which is a different number. This is because internally Revit is always using feet, so this is square feet, and the unit of this drawing is square meter. That's why the as value string is showing as square meter, but Revit is always storing data in feet. The next point is that we can select something on the database of Revit using the filtered element collector. With that, we can get elements with a specific criteria. So let's see how that works. At the code, so this code is just handling the selection. Let's now get all the doors inside this project. So we're going to create a filtered element collector of doors. Add this document that we have open on the screen, and let's say that we want elements of category doors, and also note that Revit has elements and families, the definition of the families. In this case, we want family instance. We don't want the definition, the symbol. We want the instance. So type of family instance. Now, just like in the selection, we can use the for each to go through every element on this filtered element collector. Iterate through the collection with a for each. Just like before, we can say task dialog show element dot category dot name and element dot name. Before we run this code, let's go to a few more important information about the parameters. All the built-in parameters can be accessed and added for each element. Some parameters cannot be added because they are read-only, but we can at least access them. Each parameter has its own properties, such as name, storage type, and value. Other type of parameters like shared parameters are defined in an external file and used inside Revit, but they belong to the same collection. You can have more information about the parameters at the Wiki help available at the link you see on the screen. So let's see all the parameters we can get for the elements selected on the filtered element collector. So for each element parameter in element dot parameters. Let's create a string builder. This string builder will contain the information from the parameters. Note that each parameter can store information of a different type. So let's get the parameter name. Parameter text. Append the name, which is param.definition.name. And now let's go get the information. So as the information is stored on different types, we have to check which type of information it is being stored on each parameter. So we have some types like string. So in this case, param text append param as string. But it also may be something like a double. Param text append. Let's write as a double. So param as double. We can also try all the other types like integer and element ID. But for this presentation, I'm going to stop here. So I'm not going to do the other two types. And just to see that on screen, let's add a break line. Otherwise, when we expose that on screen, will not be easy to read. So instead of the category, because we know the category, let's just show the name and the text to a string. Now we can see all the elements, all the doors, and we can get all the parameters, but only the parameters of type text and double with the respective name and the respective value. So let's create a file, a project. One wall and add a few doors. I don't have to select them, just run the command. So I can see the name of the door and the parameters, and I can see all of them, but I'm just adding the value for types of text and double, such as area, height, volume and area here. So also the mark is set as 1, and the other door, the mark is set as 2. Finally, you can get some more information at our blog, The Build Encoder, which is maintained by Jeremy Temek. We also have the ADN Dev blog, which also contains some very interesting information. You can go to the Developer Center, where you can find the training material and the SDK and some other information about the API. We also have the discussion group, where you can go ask questions and the community can help you. We from ADN are monitoring the blog, so we can also answer your questions at the blog. Also, if you plan to do a professional development, we have the Autodesk Developer Network, where you can get some professional help. That's it. Thanks for watching this class. Hope you have fun developing for Revit.